What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Adam, back at you once again for the hashtag rebound series. And it's been a while. It's been a few weeks since I've talked to all of you, and traffic on the channel has stalled out, and I've just been really busy. And to get into the nuts and bolts of what went down and why I've been gone for so long, it started out with the week of the election. Trump, as we all know, he won the election. And, excuse me, doing these unedited. Trump won the election, and I gathered all this footage, and I came up with this whole thing that I was going to talk about, and I was starting to move into the editing game. And I wanted to do some more videos that had music and editing and just a little bit more polish and that kind of stuff. And so I had a whole video planned out, exactly what I was going to say. And I got this down to where the last edited video that I put out took about a day and a half to completely put together from start to finish and publish. And it was probably a little more time than I should have or even wanted to put into a video. But I knew that if I kept doing it over and over again and follow certain patterns and just keep doing the same thing over and over, the time it takes to do that would get less and less over time. And so I just decided to go with it. And what happened was I was in the middle of shooting a video of me sitting in front of the camera. And within a span of about 4 or 5 minutes, I went from feeling normal and perfectly healthy and fine to, like, you can see my face turn white in the video. And I got to the point where in about a span of 5 minutes, I had to just cut the video, stop recording, go lay down on the couch and try to stop the world from spinning around me, because it was bad. I felt like I got a bad case of food poisoning. Stomach ache, felt like I was going to throw up, fever, and it hit fast. Like I said, I went in a span of about 5 minutes, I went from feeling great and perfectly normal to feeling like I was going to have to go to the hospital or something because it was bad. And so I spent the next 3 days just laying down on a couch, watching videos, watching shows. And it went away after about 3 days. And the way other people were getting sick around me, it wasn't food poisoning, it was some sort of bug going around. Kids at school were getting it, neighbors were getting it, somebody else in the household got it, other people weren't getting sick. Some of us got it, some of us didn't, and for everybody that got it, it lasted about 3 days, a horrible 3 days, and then it was over and you felt decent again. I wouldn't say normal. It took another week or two for me to feel normal again. But I was already starting to kind of slip behind and feel like I'm falling behind on certain things. I'm pushing myself really hard. I'm working a lot of hours. I'm just pouring myself into 10 different things. And all of a sudden I'm on the couch for 3 days, knocked out cold. Then I go back to doing the job at the bakery. And that was very difficult because I ride my bicycle to get there and back. The bicycle ride itself actually it was more helpful than harmful in terms of feeling better again. Breathing the fresh air, getting the exercise actually helped break out of the feeling sick. But at the same time, I was exhausted when I was coming home from these shifts. And then they started giving me more hours. And they started giving me more off-the-wall shifts, like closing one night and having to come right back the following morning. Barely getting a few hours of sleep, working 8 hours until, not getting home until almost 11 o'clock at night, and then having to be right back at 7 in the morning the next day to work another 8 hours. And I don't, it is what it is. This is the kind of job it is. This is what I expected when I signed up for it. So there's no hard feelings. There's no animosity about it. This is what comes with that kind of thing. If anything, I just have a newfound respect for people who have to do that in order to survive. Because it's tough. It's tough, especially when you're not really making enough money to survive and having to work that hard and that long. You know, it's the kind of job where when you're there, the clock goes really slow. You'll feel like you've been there for 4 hours. You look, oh, 15 minutes went by. When I'm sitting in front of my computer doing my design work, doing work that is, you know, in line with what I've been trained to do my whole life, and what I can't say I always enjoy it, because I don't, but when I sit in front of the computer to do design work for a client or for a job, 4 hours goes by in the blink of an eye. I feel like 15 minutes went by. I look at the clock, oh my God, it's lunch. That happened today. I worked for about 2.5 hours, and it felt like it went by in the blink of an eye, and I was hungry and had to stop and go eat. And so while I was eating, the house here has been, we've had a lot of guests, a lot of family kind of things for the holidays, for Thanksgiving and such. And so there's been a lot of traffic in and out of the house, a lot of people here, a lot of festivities, if you will, etc. So today is the first day that all of that calmed down. And my friend and his wife, they left the house to go do some errands, go pick the kid up from school and all that kind of stuff. And I'm sitting here by myself. And how do I explain it? I think getting sick, for the few days that I was sick, I had a direction that I was about to go with these videos, and the way I was in the subject matter and the editing and just certain things about what I was going to talk about. And I kind of feel like those 3 days, God put the brakes, put up his hand. He's like, stop and think about things for a minute. Before you go down this road, I want you to stop and think. In fact, I'm not going to let you go any farther today. You're going to stop this video. It happened right in the middle of recording a video that the brakes just got pounded on. Like, it came to a dead stop in the middle of the video. And so over the next few days, I'm like, well, I'm going to change the way I'm going to go about this and talk about this, and I'm going to do this, do that a little bit differently. But I still, I really enjoy editing, and I enjoy putting graphics and motion graphics and making a more polished video, a more polished approach, a more polished presentation. Even if it takes longer to do, I enjoy doing it. It's something I've done my whole career as a designer. I made most of my living doing motion graphics for 5 or 6 years of my career, mostly for web-based stuff and for corporations, companies, that kind of stuff. But think about like the title sequences and the animation stuff and the typography that you see at the beginning of television shows or movies and things like that. Animated type, graphics, that kind of stuff. I did that day in and day out for years. And so I enjoy that, and I would love to incorporate that into what I'm doing here. But it takes more time, no doubt about it. I could come up with some reusable things that I could use and over again in these videos, and I had a lot of things in my mind that I'm not necessarily abandoning and throwing out the window, but over the last few weeks, I've had to set aside a lot of stuff that I want to do because there are things that I have to do that take precedence over these videos and all these other things. And the bakery job was slamming me with hours for a few weeks. And that wasn't bad. I can use the extra money, and it's been helpful. And there were things that I had to pay for and do that, the hours came just in time for me to do that. I'm like a week away, I think, from getting my Texas driver's license finally. I put that off for a few weeks too long, but I'm about to get that taken care of. Probably going to go out and get a car I'm going to start looking for a car seriously as soon as that physical photo ID is in my hand, however long that takes. I've already been car shopping casually just to see the prices and what my options are, and so I have a good idea of what I'm going to do there. And as soon as I get a car, that opens up the possibility of getting another job that pays more somewhere else, that, you know, maybe I have to travel farther. It may not be a design job, it may not be what I want to be doing, but maybe I can make 20, 25 an hour to go do something else, and having a vehicle to go do that will help. It's going to open up more doors of possibility, and I really feel like I'm being pushed in that direction right now. And aside from going to get a car, I got to find a place to live. And so there's things that are eating at me that I feel like I'm in a hurry for. And I'm going to go into that on a little bit deeper level here in a minute. I'm going to try and keep these videos shorter than they've been, you know, just because of people's short attention spans and everything. And just kind of because I don't have a lot of time right now to pour into doing video editing and fancy stuff, is it better to not do anything and just let the channel die? Or should I just go back and to the basics? I was sitting in a park every day in Jamestown, holding a camera in front of my face and talking to you guys and putting almost no editing or I really wasn't putting anything into it. And, you know, all you people showed up to the table, gave me great comments and feedback. You know, the channel grew and everything else. And so, in combination with these thoughts that I'm having about what should I do to keep this moving forward, I watched this other guy's channel. His name's Truth Tiger. You saw me do an interview with him a while back. For those of you who didn't see it, just go through the other videos on this channel and you'll find it. It was called Live from the Library or something like that. It was a live stream I did with him. And his channel and my channel were kind of at the same level in terms of subscribers. We were both around 1,000 subscribers at around the same time. And all he does is sit in front of a camera, sometimes in his car and sometimes at his desk, and he just talks to you guys. That's all he does. He doesn't do any fancy editing. He doesn't get into any of that production value stuff. And all of a sudden, I looked a few weeks ago, and his channel had 2,500 subscribers. I was like, good for you, man. And then like a week ago, I looked, and I'm like, wow, he's got like 5,500 subscribers. That's awesome. And then today I look, and he's got 6,500 subscribers. He got 1,000 subscribers in about a week. And I'm like, that's awesome. But it was another sign for me that you don't have to do all this fancy stuff that I want to do, but I don't have to do it, at least not right now. And it just told me it's better to just keep putting stuff out there and talk about things than it is to try to make it perfect before you show it to anybody and before you put it out there. And so I had this whole thing I wanted to talk about with Trump winning the election, and it's time dated. If I do it right now, we're a month after the election, and it's pointless at this point the world has changed in the span of a month. It's going to be dated. It's not going to be right. And so, I don't know. So I'm going at, let me look here. I've got some notes I've got so many notes to talk about here, but I should have pulled this out of my list before I sat down in front of you guys, but it really was like a spur of the moment thing to pull out my camera and shoot this video because my friend and his wife, they left. This is the first time I've been in the house alone with nobody else in the house for over 2 weeks now. And I thought, perfect time to shoot a video. And if I'm going to do these videos quick and dirty and go back to the unedited, just talking in front of the camera version of doing these things, just so that I can put more content out for you guys and talk about things with you guys. That's how I've got to do it right now. It works best for me if I do it when I'm alone in the house and there's nobody else here. And I got a nice backdrop behind me and I'm sitting right in front of my computer and, you know, all this stuff. And, well, so I don't know what day it was. It was a few days ago. And I'm going to get into the meat of the topic right now. And then I'm going to, whenever I'm done talking about this for a little bit, I'm going to, you know, close the books on this episode, upload it. And I'm just going to try and make regular updates for a while. And just do this, you know, sitting in front of the camera. Kind of a podcast with a face approach. And, you know, maybe when I get caught up on things or if life takes a different turn where time opens up, I'll put some more production value into these and go back to doing some more fun stuff like that because it's fun and I enjoy it. But like I said, I've been feeling a lot of anxiety and feeling rushed. Like I haven't done enough since I've been in Texas. And that really ramped up when I got sick for a few days. And I also feel guilty whenever I take a day, like a Sunday, to just do nothing and relax. I feel guilty about it. I feel like I'm supposed to be doing something, and if I sit and just relax and try to recharge for a day, I know that my body needs that from time to time, but I also feel guilty about doing it. But I don't know, it was last weekend. It was Thanksgiving week. I worked 2 clopen shifts in a row. And where I closed one night, and then I had to open the next morning, and then work a whole day, and then the next day I had to do it again. So there were 4 days in a row where I had to clopen twice, and it was tough. And so I took a day or two to do nothing. And sometimes I feel like maybe I'm being judged by other people, thinking that I'm lazy because I take a couple of days to recharge and unwind and just get nothing done. And these freelance projects got a little bit slower than I want them to move during that stressful time between being sick and working all those hours at the bakery. So, but I have really good clients. They've been understanding. They're not, you know, pressuring me to. Sometimes we all kind of said to each other, we're all feeling the same way. We're feeling rushed and like things need to move faster. But at the same time, we all have said it feels like God is just going to make things happen in his own time. And so I was watching, it was Saturday night. I was watching this show called The Chosen. It's about Jesus and his followers. It's a really great show. And when I was in prison, I really got into watching that. That's where I started watching it. And I got to a point, the federal prison, the Bureau of Prisons, took the DVDs away from us because they didn't want us watching the show anymore. So I got to a point, and then I wasn't allowed to watch it anymore because they took it away from us. You can read into that all you want. And any of you who have seen the show would really be surprised, but probably not surprised at the same time. So while I was in prison, I got to somewhere towards the end of season 3 of The Chosen, and then boom, stopped. Couldn't watch anymore. And then months went by. And while I was homeless, they had the DVDs at the library. And I took them out, but I couldn't remember where I left off. So I started watching season 3 again. And every episode that I watched, I had already seen. But I didn't know where I left off. I couldn't figure out where I had left off because it had been so long. So, at some point during that whole thing, they took at the homeless shelter, they took out the couches from the TV lounge. And so it got to the point where I didn't want to sit in front of the TV in the lounge anymore. Plus, I got that private room, and I spent all my time up there. And, one thing led to another, and I wasn't watching the Chosen episodes anymore. So now here I am at my friend's house. I want to say like a week ago, I started watching again. And once again, I couldn't figure out where I left off, so I just picked up an episode where I know I've seen this one before, and I just started watching from there. Well, Saturday night came around, and I finally got to the episode where I left off, because now I'm watching an episode, and I know I haven't seen this one before. And so I reached the point where I left off. And it was an episode where he healed the woman who was bleeding for years and years. And the woman reached out and touched his robe in the crowd. And she was instantly healed. And then Jesus turned around and was like, "Who touched me?" And, he couldn't figure out who touched him because he felt the power leave from him. And this is all in the Bible. This is a story from the Bible. And so then he turns around, and in the midst of this crowd, he goes up to her and tells her that, "My robe, I didn't heal you, your faith healed you." And he did he did this in front of a crowd of people. And then he was on his way to heal a sick child, and the child died while he was on the way to healing the child. And then he showed up. The child's father was all distraught and it's too late. Oh my God, we're too late. And oh man, et cetera, et cetera. And then Jesus goes in and raises the child from the dead. And so this is all in the Bible, but I reached that episode in the show on Saturday night, last Saturday. And so I thought that was great, because now I'm finally caught up, and every episode that I watch moving forward is going to be new content and new stuff that I haven't seen yet. And it was great. I love that show. But Sunday, I'm trying to figure out where to go to church. And I'm trying to find a church that's within friendly bicycling distance. And there are a few different places, but I've been watching their sermons online to see, is this the kind of place that I would want to go? And there's one church that on my way back and forth to the bakery, a lot of times I ride through their parking lot as a way to cut through a neighborhood. And I cut through the neighborhood and avoid having to ride on some of those really crazy roads. And so they also have this big park attached to the church. There's a lot of these mega churches all over the place here in Houston, Texas. In fact, the Joel Osteen super gigantic mega church is located here in Houston. There's another one called the Woodlands Church that's almost as big as that. And then there's all these other churches everywhere you go that are just huge, these giant mega churches. And I would call this a somewhat of a mega church. It's bigger than any church you don't see these things in Pittsburgh. Not like this. You don't see so many of these things. And there are some big churches in Pittsburgh, but this area of Texas, it's just like, what? And these things kind of rub me the wrong way, because it's like, did Jesus really want people going to a stadium mega church to worship? I just don't know. But this one big church down the road, it's really close. It would be a 5-minute bicycle ride for me to go there on Sunday. 10 minutes at the most, if I'm not feeling good. They have a frisbee golf course, and I love to play frisbee golf. I can't play frisbee golf right now because all my frisbee golf equipment was lost when the FBI smashed my house apart with a tank. But that was one of the things I lost. I had a frisbee golf bag with 20 different discs, and I'd been playing for years and years, and off and on. And so I'm a Frisbee golfer, and I would love to go play Frisbee golf down at this church. And there's always people down there playing when I ride my bicycle through. And it looks like a pretty nice course. It's 18 holes. It's a pretty cool place. So I was looking into this church, and I started watching their sermons online a few weeks ago. And so I just watched that episode of The Chosen, where Jesus healed the woman and then went and raised the kid from the dead on Saturday night. Sunday morning, I start watching this sermon from the church with the Frisbee golf course down the road. And the pastor's sermon was about the exact same thing that I just watched on The Chosen last night. The whole subject of his sermon was when you feel like you have anxiety and you feel like you're rushed and you're in a hurry and you haven't done enough, God does things on his own time, and it's probably not according to your schedule. And so the whole sermon was about that, was exactly what I've been feeling all week. Feeling rushed, feeling like I'm not doing enough. And then he talks about the woman who touched his robe and got healed, and how Jesus was on his way to heal a sick child, and the child died during that trip because he stopped to heal that woman and talk to that woman. He didn't get to the house on time, and how everybody was upset because if that hadn't happened, he would have been on time to heal the sick child and all this and that. I just watched this episode of The Chosen 10 hours ago. And now I'm watching a guy give a sermon live at a church down the road that's really close by, and he's giving a sermon, and for half an hour he's talking about the exact same thing I just watched 10 hours ago. Randomly. And I'm just like, I don't feel like the timing of that and the coincidence of that was a coincidence. I feel like that was something that I was supposed to hear Sunday and Saturday. It was something that, it was like a message I was supposed to receive, because of the way it happens like that, where it goes, it's like, yeah, it could be a coincidence, but when it's like that exact, and that, it was totally random that I started watching The Chosen last week, and I reached the episode where I left off in prison Saturday night, and finally saw an episode I hadn't seen before, and it just happened to be that episode, and it just happened to be the same exact thing in the Bible that the pastor at church talks about the next morning 10 hours after I just watched this on this show. It doesn't add up to a coincidence. To me, it seems like I was supposed to hear this. This was I don't even know why I picked up the phone when I did to watch the sermon when I did. I could have watched 20 other different sermons on YouTube. I could have watched a bunch of different other things. I could have watched more episodes of The Chosen on Sunday morning. But for some reason, I just said, hey, what's going on at that church? Since I know I'm not going to make it on time to actually go to church, what are they talking about today? Boom, they're talking about the same thing you just watched on TV 10 hours ago. So one of the things that he was talking about, and I think this is a topic because I'm closing in on half an hour. I think I'm going to introduce my next topic by talking about this. This was part of his sermon. And then I'm just going to use this to kind of lead into the next thing that I talk about. And the next time that I talk to you guys will, basically it'll be the next time that I have the house to myself. Everybody's gone, out running errands, doing whatever they have to do. And I just have time to sit in front of the camera and talk to you all and feel comfortable and you know, all of that. So he was talking about how he was waiting in line at the grocery store, and there was somebody in front of him that had their earbuds in their ears. And I hate that too. I hate when I see people. I hate it when I go up to an employee at a grocery store and I have to ask them a question and they don't take their earbuds out to answer you. And it's like, yeah, I get it. Like, you can turn off the sound. You can still have your iPods, your earbuds, whatever they're called, in your ear, and you can still have a conversation with people because you're not listening to the music and all that, and you can still hear back and forth. But it's just rude. It's rude. Like, if I only my best friends, and like, I will take my headphones off or my earbuds out if I'm talking to somebody, because it's just, I don't know, it's just seems, it's not even, it's a reflex. I'm not gonna, in very limited circumstances would I leave them in. But if I'm talking to a stranger, if I'm talking to a cashier at the grocery store, I'm gonna pull my headphones out. So he was talking about how the woman in front of him wouldn't take her headphones out, and the cashier's trying to talk to her, and she's just, not really paying attention, and it seemed kind of rude, and the cashier, it was just a rude thing to do. And then the woman grabs her groceries and walks off, and then he starts talking about how he's next in line, and so he makes it a point to say hi to the cashier and be personable with the cashier and try to have that conversation. And then he said he could feel his phone vibrating in his pants pocket. And he pulled out his phone, and it was an email from work. And he looked down, and for some reason he felt like he had to respond to this email right then and there while he's waiting in the grocery line. And then he gets done with ringing up his groceries, and he's walking back out to the parking lot, and he starts to think to himself, who am I to judge this woman who wouldn't take her earbuds out while she was waiting in line at the grocery store? And here I am thinking about how rude she is, and how obnoxious that is, and how, you're not being present with other people when you're doing that, and all the things that go with it. And then I'm the very next guy in line, and as soon as I feel my phone buzz in my pocket, I'm looking at my phone, and I'm responding to an email from work. And I'm judging them both. I'm sitting here judging them both while I'm listening to the sermon, because I'm like, if you're in that much of a hurry about your job, or that tied to your job that you can't even wait in line at the grocery store without having to respond to a freaking email, like, you can't even wait until you get back out into the parking lot and you're sitting in your vehicle. And in my case, I wouldn't do that. I would wait until I'm home, sitting in front of a computer. Like, I personally do not let a job or people at work cut into my personal life like that. I put up a real solid wall when it comes to that stuff. And I've always been like that. Maybe not always, but I learned to be like that a long time ago, to not let people walk all over my turf in my personal time and in my personal life. And so, but I'm sitting here judging this guy and the woman with the headphones. But then I'm like, there are plenty of times that I can think of where I've been the same way, and I've done similar things, been distracted when somebody's trying to talk to me, been wrapped up in my phone and scrolling through some social media garbage when my kid is trying to have a conversation with me or ask me something, and I'm just like, yeah, whatever. So who am I to judge this guy for the things that he did wrong? And who is he to judge the person in front of him in line when he basically did the same thing when he was next in line? And so it was just, and it all kind of boiled down to how we all feel anxiety, and we all feel like we're living our lives rushed, and we're all in a hurry, and we all feel like we haven't done enough, and we're not doing enough. And a lot of this modern technology that we use this day, it makes us feel that way. Because I remember when I was a kid, we had the phone that you had to dial in a circle, and if you had a bunch of 9s and 0s in the phone number, oh, forget about it. You're dialing that phone number for for 5 minutes just to dial the phone number. And then there was this whole concept of, I'm not home. Answering machines came out when I was a kid. There was a point in time where the phone would just ring and ring and ring, and you would just say, okay, the person's not home. And it wasn't a big deal. But now, someone sends you a text message and you don't respond within 2 minutes, there are people out there that's a problem. I was listening to some younger girls talk about texting guys at the bakery job where I work. There's a lot of youngsters that work with me. And these girls were talking about texting different guys and how the guy, if he doesn't text back within a couple of minutes, they're freaking out. Like, what's going on? Why haven't I heard back? What's going on? And I'm just looking over. I'm like, maybe he's taking a dump. Maybe he's taking a dump and he didn't bring his phone to the bathroom with him. Like, there's one explanation that's possible. Like, just, you got to relax. So I think that's a good place to stop this video, because the next topic that I want to get into that kind of leads into the video that I was going to put out for you guys but got stopped in my tracks was about forgiveness and about forgiving other people. And a lot of stuff that happened and is happening around this last election that we had, it goes right along with that topic, along with a lot of the experiences that I've had over the last year of my life, 2-3 years of my life, but especially since I got released from federal prison. The topic of forgiveness is something that just doesn't stop. And the election was no exception. As a quick preview, for a couple of days after Donald Trump won, I was doing the Trump dance just like everybody else who was rooting for him to win. And I was like, to the liberals, I was like, ha ha, you idiots. Ha 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 ha, ha ha ha, ha ha ha. And because, I'm having a hard time forgiving the other team, the other side, for a lot of the things that they personally did to me. How many people said anybody who refuses the vaccine should be living in a concentration camp and should never have a job again, and all these other things. Like, there's a lot of personal things that took place aside from being sent to federal prison over a social media post that, I'm having a hard time with forgiveness there. I'm having a hard time with forgiveness for other things I've talked about. It's a very difficult thing for me right now. And so I'm going to talk about that in some more detail with my next video. So, keep watching. I do have a whole bunch of notes for that, but I'm at 37 minutes and I'm going to cut this. I just wanted to say hi to everybody. And if you're wondering what happened to me and where I went and, what happened there, well, that's what happened. I got sick. I got busy. Life took over. And I'm just going to have to step back on the amount of effort and time that I'm putting in these videos so that I can actually deliver them to you at least once a week and hopefully more. So hopefully you're all having a good time. I hope you're all accomplishing the things that you want to accomplish. And I think people are starting to come back to the house right now. So good timing. I'll talk to you soon. Peace out.